Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Jay. We're going over a brand new rental property that we have here in South Florida. We have a lot of details we're going to be covering as far as how to fix it up, how to keep it under budget as opposed to going over like what we do with a lot of our flips. Not necessarily over budget, but not extending the design and the cost like it normally would on a more higher end property or on a flip that we're doing. So we're going to be going into this in detail. It's a very simple 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, but we got a lot of stuff to cover. So let's get right into it. Let's go. Okay guys, we are now on the side of the house, and the reason why I want to start here on the side of the house is because I want to show you what some of the old windows look like. Now, these are windows that are so freaking old that they have a really hard time opening and closing. So the issue that we're going to have with them is what to do when it comes to hurricane season. Now, typically you'd either put shutters around them, or the best scenario, you take all this out and you put in some new hurricane impact windows. Because of the cost of what it's going to be very expensive. We're going to hold off on that for now. We're just going to try to get our caulking sealed around them. You might be thinking, why would you caulk a window? That's terrible. But in this particular instance, all it does is let in bugs, and they just do not operate very well. So the best thing we can do here is to seal them up as best as we can. And thankfully, these are not egress windows. Egress windows being windows that you can use in the event of a fire. You could actually jump out of them. Now, is it possible to jump out of these? It is, but the problem is because they're not necessarily designed for it and the size of it, they're probably not the best use of that. So we're gonna seal it up. Thankfully, we already have 2 exits, and we do have egress windows already inside the house. So being able to close these up is just gonna help seal off all the bugs from entering. Now, over here, you can actually see some of the water lines that have been coming into the house. This is an old sprinkler system that we're gonna be keeping. Now, there isn't a whole lot to irrigate around this house just because there's just not a lot of grass. Everything right now is just kind of beat up dirt. So if we don't end up using it, it's still to be something that we want to have repaired so that in the event that we ever do decide to, it's good to know that it's working and it's in perfectly good condition. Something else we're going to be doing too is repairing the line that connects to this hose, because right now this is our water spigot, and I don't know if you guys can see that in the video, but you can actually see there's just leaking water coming off of it. So what we're going to have to do is replace this. Unfortunately, because of how short it is, we have to chip all of the stucco and all of the concrete around it, extend it out from the wall, and then put a new hose bib on the end of it. So just one of those things you got to do when you have houses that have just gone through a number of homeowner specials. As far as the rest of it goes, we have some of the old cable line from when there was an old satellite dish. It's all antiquated, so we don't have to worry about it. Here you have the vents that allow the air movement through the house. Now, somebody just put a piece of plywood in front of it. My guess is because at some point they had rats or snakes or something crawling into their house. So the best thing to do in a situation like that, put up some metal so that none of the rodents can chew through it, and you still get the ventilation. Are you someone who's looking to get into real estate investing because you're tired of the 9-to-5 life, you're tired of your boss? Well, this might actually be your opportunity, because Tuesday, December 3rd, I'm going to be hosting a free live webinar where I'm going to be showing some of the ins and outs of real estate investing and how you can get into it. All you need to do is go to jayabrams.com to sign up, and I'll see you guys there. Now, back to the video. Over here, we have the existing fireplace here at the property. Now, with this particular fireplace, it has a lot of the old paint. We're gonna be stripping the paint. We're gonna be stripping the paint of all these flakes that you see here currently, putting some new stucco on top of it. Once we get that stucco on there and it's adhered really nicely and it's cured, we'll come back, we'll paint it, and it'll look like a brand new fireplace, basically. Over here, if we keep sliding down, you can see some of the old cracks. Now, you see all this? This is a wood frame house, and a lot of this is happening from settling, plus the stucco that's currently on it is starting to break up because there's movement in the house, and the stucco, because it's a really firm material, it can't really flex with that movement. So we'll have to come back over it, patch it again. Most likely this is going to continue to happen until you get all the settling complete, but I do think it won't be an eyesore as it currently is right now. Okay, the next thing we're gonna be doing, if you guys look at this side of the house, we have a lot of the old gas lines that were once here. We are gonna be keeping it in its current condition, even though we're not going gas. Now, the benefit of that is there actually is gas on the street, so that's good. So if you ever decide to switch back from electric to gas, you know that it's here. Typically, you have like a gas meter that reads, and then this is the feed that goes into the house. Now, these old galvanized lines, typically these things rust out pretty badly, but this actually looks pretty good. More than likely, if someone ever decides to go gas, you're gonna have to change this. I am not gonna be going gas, and this is gonna be a rental property, so I'm keeping it. So as of right now, keeping the electrical, leaving this alone, just kind of, you know, making it look pretty-ish by closing this off, putting a cap on it, and then stuccoing around it. As far as some other details, this is just some cleanup. It's like an old bush. There's some open electrical not safe. So there needs to be a cover that goes over this guy. This is our disconnect for our AC unit. Thankfully, the AC unit is in really good working condition, so we're gonna leave this guy alone. We're gonna clean up all this, take down the jail bars, and at some point, we're gonna be replacing the roof. As of right now, it's in okay condition. Once it's all said and done, it's gonna look really nice. So we're at the back deck of the house, and what I really like back here, it's got a great vibe to it. Now you might be looking at it and thinking like, where the vibe at? But I can tell you it's here. So something that's gonna be done, we're gonna be ripping up these old boards because a lot of them, as you can see, they're all uneven. They're probably not screwed in properly. I also don't know what the structure underneath them looks like. So once we rip that out, we put some new deck boards down, I think it's gonna give it a really nice feel. In addition to that, you guys can see we have a ton of trash back here. We've got overgrown vegetation, so we need to rip all that down. After we get the vegetation ripped down, after we get out all this trash, as we take out the desk, then for the most part, it's gonna be pretty clean. And once it's clean, you're gonna have a better sense of what the space is gonna look like. Thankfully, the stucco back here looks pretty good. We've got a door in that also looks pretty decent. I'm probably gonna be putting some trim around it just because eventually I do think water will work its way through this and eventually mess up what's happening behind the door as far as the wood is concerned and the buck detail. But for right now, I think it's okay. We do need to get a proper light in here. It does have one up here, which is a floodlight. Now that can work if it's still in functioning order, but I do think it'd be nice to just have one a little bit closer to head height, or at least within arm's reach or arm's distance, because imagine having to change that bulb. Unless you have a giant ladder, you're just probably not gonna be able to get up there. In addition to that, you guys could actually see, so over here on this wall, we actually have a lot of damage, and the result of it is because of this tree. So this is a mango tree that has really uprooted this block wall that was once put in by someone. And then as you can see, like all the cracks along here, they tried to do some repair job, but it just wasn't really good enough. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim back this tree as much as we can. Then we're gonna put some stucco over this wall. Once we put the stucco over that wall, we'll paint it all white. It's gonna look a lot better than it currently does right now, because in its state, at some point, I do think that wall may fall over, but you just never really know when you have a tree of this size. Okay, on this side of the house, it's a lot of cleanup to do. So you're gonna be ripping up all these shrubs and bushes, cleaning up the overgrown vegetation that you see currently on the ground. We're gonna be probably putting down maybe rocks, maybe mulch, not really sure, but I wanna keep it simple because the last thing I want is to have a lot of maintenance to come out here, especially if people are gonna be renting, because you know they're not gonna be cutting this grass. So it's really gonna be up to me. So the less amount of maintenance that it's gonna have, the better. Another thing we're gonna be doing, same thing like on the other side of the house, getting rid of all these old jail bars. They just not working. Another thing we've been doing, if you guys look, there's like an old vent stack right there, this white stack in right here. Now, the benefit of this is that it's made out of copper. So what you can do is sell it and make some money if that's what you choose to do. I'm not in the business of doing that. So I'm literally just gonna be ripping it out and throwing it in the trash because this currently serves absolutely no purpose. Another thing we're gonna be doing, if you guys can see at the top here, there's no fascia of any kind, right? Fascia is the stuff that's right there. It's a piece of wood that usually comes all the way across. Now, why it's not there, maybe it was ripped out, maybe it was never put in, it's hard to say, but I can tell you that after we put the new roof on it, we're gonna be adding some fascia on there. Just gives it a much more finished detail. Plus, it's also gonna help because now that wood is not gonna drip onto the rafters from above. Instead, it's gonna hit that fascia and then fall down. So, as far as back here, I think that kind of wraps it up. We're gonna have some more stuff to show you on the front side, so let's get right to it. So before I even get to the house, let's go to the front of the house. Now we have this existing fence. Yeah, it needs some work. So I'm still trying to decide if we can just repair it. I mean, I know we can repair it, but should we repair it? Or should we just take it down and start over, start brand new. Sometimes there's always like a balance between like what do you repair and what do you replace, because it may be just as much energy as it is money to repair something like this as opposed to just starting over and putting everything brand new. Because all these pickets that you see currently on the fence, they'll already come adhered to a new one. So imagine just ripping this down, blat, put up one, flat, put up two, done, right? There's something to be said about that. Now, if that's gonna be the case here, I'm not quite sure. Again, we're trying to save money wherever we can. So it may be something that we end up repairing. We'll just have to find out in the next couple episodes. Now let's walk over the house. So as far as the front of this house goes, a lot of damage. Look at this guy. I mean, look, everything. It's all falling apart. The deck boards, loose, or at least the stair treads. Look at the wood detail as far as what's happening up here on the handrail. I mean, the whole thing is just falling apart. There's so much water intrusion that's been penetrated into this wood that, man, there's really not a whole lot here to save. It'd be best to just replace it so it's nice and solid. Plus, again, if it's gonna be a rental property, imagine somebody's coming in home late, drunk one night, and they fall. The last thing you need is something like that happening. So in situations like this, better to just replace it than just, what do they say? Better to be safe than be sorry. I think this is a great example of that. So here's another thing. We go up here at the front door. Thankfully, the front of this house is like really charming. So I'm trying to keep a lot of that charm. I don't want to lose it. So we're gonna be maintaining it as much as we can. We got a broken pane of glass we're gonna need to repair. We also just have a lot more wood details up here that are also gonna need to be secured and screwed down. So it's just a lot of repair work. But that's as far as like the handrail goes and the deck. Thankfully, the door itself, the wood that's here, because of this overhang, is helping to protect what's happening as far as the facade of the house. So that means all we're gonna need to do is really just do a pressure wash as far as the outside goes, paint it, and then that's gonna look really good. Most of our work and our heavy lifting is just gonna be all of the areas around the house itself. So I think in the next episode, you guys are actually gonna see a little bit more work that's been done as far as the repair goes. And then hopefully, if we have time, in the following episode, you'll actually see everything painted and exactly what I have planned for what we're doing at this house. Okay, ladies and gents, that wraps up this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. In next week's episode, you're actually gonna see a lot of the cleanup work that's happening all back here. We're gonna be doing a little bit more demo. You're gonna see some of the deck boards ripped up. Hopefully, you'll even see the deck itself put in. As far as the outside of the house goes, we have a lot of work to do as far as patching it before we paint it. So there might be a little wait on that, but I do think there's a lot more to look forward to. Just gotta tune in. Gotta tune in to know when it is. Turn on those bell notifications though. That way you guys are the first ones to know anytime a new video drops. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and like this video for more content just like this. Until next time, catch you guys in the next one.